All right, welcome to round number one. Our hand is a little weak here. We are on the draw, it seems. We are lacking in a bounce land. Obviously, we have no amulet nor a way to find one, but we do have a ramp creature and a titan, so it is tempting to keep this. I think blind, this is just going to be a little bit too slow. I'm going to get greedier and try to find something better than that. This hand, obviously, very, very similar. At this point, I think I am not greedy enough to go to 5. I think we'll go ahead and get our scry. That we're going to put on the bottom. Really don't need a regular land at this point. Would much prefer, at the very least, a blue source, if not just a bounce land to help us transmute this. Obviously, we do have a Summoner's Pact, so that's not the end of the world, but... Okay, bounce land is a fine draw. I do want to not use my gemstone mine if at all possible. I'm probably going to want to float blue with this at some point and bounce it. I guess this is a blue bounce land, so that's not going to be not needing to be the case any longer. We can use blue to transmute this at some point. So I think I'm just going to lead on this for now. It's a little bit of a giveaway as to what we're up to. I could lead on something like forest, but I'm concerned that if we drew... maybe I can't think of anything specific. Maybe it's safe to lead on forest, but like I said, I don't want to get into needing to use the gemstone mine to cast everything on time. So burn, not the worst matchup. Obviously, Radiant Fountain pretty helpful in this matchup, but our hand is particularly slow, and Eidolon is going to be really, really good against it. So it's not looking great for us. Hopefully, our opponent uses their mana next turn and does not leave up a way to kill Azusa. Especially since we're going to want to lead on like bounce land. I guess I don't have to. Next turn we can go quarter, Azusa, gemstone, then bounce land. The reason that I mention this is that if you lead on a land where there's a trigger involved, my opponent could actually respond to the trigger and kill my Azusa, which would stop me from casting additional lands. That is not good. Or not casting additional lands. It would stop me from playing the additional lands at that point, since I would no longer have an Azusa. But if you play lands without a trigger, then that's not the case. Either way, it appears my opponent's tapped out anyway, but they have played another Eidolon. And I have a Summoner's Pact in my hand instead of just an actual Titan. So I'm a little bit concerned here. It's looking bad, but either way, we're still interested, obviously, in jamming Azusa here, I think. Don't really have another option. Gonna take a million to do so. I'll be looking to block with it next turn if I can, I think. In the meantime, however, we're gonna go Growth Chamber, bounce Taliaferro West, I think. Let's see here, 1, 2. I want to make sure that I can play a Titan next turn, obviously. If I leave the Taliaferro West in my hand, I cannot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, so I need to leave an untapped land in my hand. So I guess I just go Gemstone Mine, Relic, bounce Gemstone Mine. Oh no, I don't want to play the Relic, obviously, against 2 Eidolons. What am I saying? That would not be very good. So in that case, doesn't really matter how I play it. I guess I can bounce the Ghost Quarter or the Basic Forest or the Gemstone Mine. I might as well leave the Gemstone Mine untapped here. I guess we'll just bounce this Basic Forest. Not interested in taking 4 for Relic of Progenitus. And then next turn we have the mana required for a Titan. Obviously we're still in a very, very rough spot considering the 2 Eidolons. Casting a Summoner's Pact puts us at 9, let alone whatever our opponent is planning on doing. We don't have an amulet, so we can't haste a Titan. So the best thing we can really do is grab like Colony Guard and Radiant Fountain, and kind of hope. All right, my opponent's not going to afford me the opportunity to block. They do have a Searing Blaze here, so that's not good. That means we're dead, really. Could draw a Titan naturally. Even if I do, I'm probably still in a bad spot. But now I can't Summoner's Pact any longer. So game's looking all but over here for our game 1. And that's why I'm all there 7. Blind, you could end up being something against something like Burn, and neither R7 nor R6 were particularly fast. All right, looks like we're not even going to be afforded another turn. We are just dead. All right. Against Burn, excuse me, I do like this Thragtusk. There's not a ton I want here. I'm okay with the Fire Spout. Kozilek's Return a little weaker though. It's still fine since it always kills Eidolons and Goblin Guides, but it does not consistently kill Monastery Mentors or Swift Spears. Excuse me. It probably does, considering that it's an instant, but it can also be hard for us to get red sometimes. I suppose not with the Groves as well. On top of that, Explosives is probably worth it. Sage kills Eidolon if I have room for it. That's something that we can include. Obviously, that doesn't do a whole lot. Relics are going to be leaving pretty easily here. Pact of Negation is questionable in this matchup, although I think likely a necessity. I don't really like Swan Songs here, unfortunately, and this is one of the problems with Swan Song on the board. I think it's not great against Burn. But then I'll just leave the Pact, so I at least have something. Pact, of course, I can tutor for as well, which is nice. As far as the lands are concerned, I could afford to shave a land here, Cavern being the least useful, I guess, or Ghost Quarter. The nice part about Cavern v Ghost Quarter is that Cavern is an always untapped green source on turn 1 for a creature. If I want to consistently be casting Secure Tribe Scout on one, which I do. The nice part about Ghost Quarter is there could be a corner case where I'm dealing with their only white land, which does come up. I think I'm going to take this out, which is questionable. Obviously, Cavern has no utility other than just being a additional green source on one, but we're very, for creatures specifically, but we're very light on those. Explosives, Kozilek's Return, and Fire Spout, I think, go in before the Sage. So there's some question about whether I want to shave one Explore for a Sage, which I think against Burn I do. The biggest reason is that I'm often not going to have time to cast a bunch of Explorers, especially against Eidolon. I need to have a little bit more productive of a hand rather than casting Explore, which sounds kind of weird, and maybe is just wrong. Obviously, Explore ramping me is not necessarily taking up time, but I'm looking for more of a combo kill against Burn, so I think this might be where it's at for us at the moment. It's possible I'm supposed to have that 4th Explorer. It's possible Ghost Quarter over Cavern would be better. I think they both have their reasons. Wow, this is a tough one. Somehow we got a super land light hand, but we had an Amulet. I guess it's not very tough. I likely just have to mulligan, and I'm sad about it, I think, is the reality. Yeah, I can't keep this on the play. It's far too greedy. Wish we had a bounce land, of course. Wow, this hand is not good. Might be better than 5. I don't get to cast this until turn 3, so it's probably not better than 5. Being that I have to lead on Taliaferro West, bounce this. Yeah, I think I have to be greedier than that against Burn. This hand is not very good, but it's going to be a keep. A little bit of a rough start for us here. This is a weird one. I think at this point I need to mulligan this. I already have Azusa. I really need to find like Amulet and Titan at this point. And that is neither of those things. So I think we're going to have to throw that one aside, since even if I get all these lands in play early, we still only have 4 mana. So I'm really looking for more of a combo venue here, considering. All right. But yeah, if I had, say, a bunch more lands, or, geez, that's not good. Yeah, well, we would definitely want to be able to cast a 3 next turn. So we'll bounce this, playing our Simic Growth Chamber, and then next turn I can play, like, Slayer Stronghold, Azusa, Gemstone Mine. Drawing another bounce land at this point would be pretty good to kind of get more value off of my Azusa. I guess if my opponent casts an Eidolon here, I could also play a Rex Sage. Looks like they're just playing another Swift Spear. So a lot of spell density in my opponent's hand. We drew a land, but not a very exciting one. We'll still get this Azusa into play. We're in a pretty rough spot where you can't, I don't have a Titan or the 6th land, right? So I don't have a single draw that kind of puts me in a good spot. I have to draw at least 2 things to get me to where I need to be here, unfortunately. Lightning Bolt my Azusa. Well, at least that's not going to our face, I suppose. We're going to be taking 4, though. Alright, Gemstone Mine. We'll cast another Azusa. I guess we do have the ability to haste it. Is it worth 2 Gemstone Mine counters to hit my opponent for 3? It might actually be better just to threaten that on defense, because I probably want to block anyway, and then if my opponent casts a spell, I can pump it and still trade in theory. So yeah, that seems more relevant. I could also just slam this Rex Sage, which is probably acceptable, but my opponent is stuck on 1 land and could at any time find a second and cast an Eidolon, which would be bad for me. This is probably going to be a Searing Blaze, which is pretty disastrous for us if the case. Still just need to find a Titan or a Summoner's Pact at this point. Searing Blood, yeah, that's the same. Equally disastrous. Alright, well, that's not the worst. Probably don't play around additional haste creatures, considering that they could just cast any spell and pump this out of range, so I think there's no good reason not to just cast this now. But we should still just be dead here, especially with my opponent finding another land. Obviously their remaining 4 cards should all be spells. Yeah, so we get bolted here. Bolted. Yeah. So, again, I don't think this is a bad matchup. We're typically a little faster than doing our first thing on turn 3. On top of that, of course, things like Colony Garden and Radiant Fountain help. But yeah, we just had a bunch of do-nothing hands, mulligan in 5. Not your average hands there, unfortunately, but hey, it happens. So I guess we're 0-1, and I will see you in round number 2.